Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I see more and more people logging in. Just to make sure you're in the correct place. This is CalSOAP, the California Student Opportunity and Access Program. And we're going to be talking about financial aid, getting an FSA ID, and this is especially focused on juniors and their families, 11th graders and their families. So as I'll give people another minute or so to log in, and then we will get started. But thank you so much for joining us. All right, I'm going to begin by introducing our Spanish interpreter, Sylvia Castro. She is joining us from San Diego Unified School District, and I will let her paste her message in the chat and give you the information about Spanish interpretation if you'd like to choose that.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. My name is Sylvia Castro. I'm going to be your interpreter today. For this session, we will be using interpretation services. After the session has started, you will see a world globe icon at the bottom of your screen. If you are using a cell phone, touch the three dots for the More option, and there you will see the interpretation options. Please select English if you would like to hear the interpretation in English, or Spanish if you prefer to listen to the presentation in Spanish. En esta sesión tenemos servicios de interpretación. Después de que inicie la sesión, aparecerá un icono en forma de mundo en la parte de abajo de su pantalla. Si están usando un teléfono celular, toquen los tres puntitos para la opción de More y ahí verán las opciones de interpretación. Si alguien ocupa servicios de interpretación, seleccionen español en las opciones de idiomas y escriba en español en el chat. Comenzaré a interpretar cuando vea su mensaje.
Okay, you should now be able to select Spanish if you would like Spanish interpretation. All right, so to introduce myself, my name is Carla Whitaker. I am an academic coordinator at CalSOAP. I want to emphasize that CalSOAP is here to help families and students be aware of all their options after high school, and a big part of that is how to fill out financial aid forms and how to pay for the cost of college. And so that's one of the reasons we have these workshops and webinars and Cash for College events, so that we can help people sometimes with general information. And we also have times where we are helping people one-on-one in person or in a one-on-one breakout room in Zoom, so we can help people with things like the FAFSA and the DREAM Act. So one of our student staff, who is a lead college readiness coach, is going to be taking us through the presentation tonight. If you have questions for her, we're going to save most of our questions for the end, and you will have a chance to ask questions at the end. We'll have plenty of time for that. But if you have questions as she goes, if you could please type them into the Q&A. You should see a Q&A button at the bottom bar of your Zoom. You can type questions in there. And Anna Sorensen, Tori Gableman, and I will be kind of monitoring that and trying our best to answer your questions. But sometimes we might put answer live, or we might be saving that and keeping a log of your questions so we can ask Tessa at the end. So Tessa, you are a student at UC San Diego, correct? A senior?
Yes, that is right. I graduate in June.
Oh my goodness, well, congratulations. So also, if you have any questions that are related to UC San Diego specifically, she can probably answer some of those for you as well. So I will go ahead and let her take it away, and she'll be sharing her screen, and she will be walking you through the financial aid process. So thank you, Tessa.
All right, thank you, Carla, for the introduction. I'm just going to share my screen. One moment. All right, if you guys can see that. don't say anything. And if you can't, let me know. Welcome to Financial Aid 101 and the FSA ID for 11th graders. I'm just going to start with a brief introduction to what CalSOAP is, even though Carla already gave us a great summary. So CalSOAP stands for the California Student Opportunity and Access Program. Our mission is to increase the college going rate among our low income and first generation students by helping navigate financial aid options. It can be really overwhelming to do it all on your own. There's a lot of information, it's complicated, so we are here to help. Please reach out if you guys have any questions. As far as our location, we're located in almost all high schools in the San Diego Unified School District, but we also support students in the Sweetwater, Grossmont, and Imperial County school districts. And then our services, we do individual student college advisement, financial aid workshops and events, evidently, middle school college and career workshops, and summer college prep programs. So we do a lot of different things. And then if there is a CRC placed at your school, CRC College Readiness Coach, then there are a few different ways that students will have the opportunity to interact with them. So your CRC might come to classrooms to do presentations, and then there will of course be opportunities to ask questions during that time. And then we also have a virtual classroom, which is CalSOAP's hub for just all sorts of resources that students could use. So we post videos for financial aid information, there's tutorials. You can also find email addresses for your CRC's contact information. And then this is also the place where you'll be able to schedule one-on-one meetings with your CRC, either via Zoom or in person. And then if you happen to be on campus at the same time as your CRC, you can also feel free to stop by their classroom, or not classroom, office, or wherever they're stationed at your school and talk to them directly. And then just at the bottom is a link to our virtual classroom. And then this is just a brief overview of your timeline for senior year. So September is going to be kind of like the preparation month. During this time, you want to meet with your counselors, go over transcripts, course load, make sure that you have all the classes required for graduation. And then during this time, you're also going to be wanting to apply for scholarships. And of course, make sure you maintain a good GPA. So October is going to be when the college admission applications open up, and they're usually due at the end of November, but we of course recommend start as soon as possible because there can be complicated or time-consuming questions, such as the personal insight questions for UCs. We want you guys to have time to go through everything carefully, revise, and just make sure everything is good to go before submitting and not be rushed. And the same kind of goes for the FAFSA and the DREAM Act application, which also open in October. They're not due until March, but start early just in case there's complicated questions. We are here for you. We want you to have time to work through it and just make sure everything's good. And then April through June is when you're going to start hearing back from your colleges. So you're going to be wanting to constantly be checking your college portals, your email, make sure that you do your placement tests. You'll also start getting financial aid letters sent to you, and then scholarship awards if you get any. And then during this time, of course, you're going to want to keep maintaining your good GPA. And then just a little note at the bottom, it's important to create a college appropriate email account. And by that, we mean an email that is not given to you by your school, because you will lose access to your school emails if that's the one that you've been using. And we want to make sure that you are able to maintain access to all these accounts. So this is imperative. All right, so now we'll just move on to the actual presentation, Financial Aid 101. So what is financial aid? Financial aid is basically money that's awarded to you so you can help pay for your college or continuing education. So it's money given by either the federal government, state government, the school, or by private entities. And there are a few different types that you should be aware of. There's grants, work study, and loans, and also scholarships. And the general eligibility is you want to be enrolled at least half-time, which is 6 units per semester. 12 is full-time. And then March 2nd, this is the date that we really want you guys to drill into your heads. March 2nd is the priority deadline for FAFSA, CADAA, and the Cal Grants. So if you want to get the best award possible, you must submit by this deadline. It is still an option to submit. If you miss the deadline, you can submit later, but it's possible that your award will be less than what it would have been if you did before. So just March 2nd. All right, so now we'll go over the eligibility for federal aid. So for students to be awarded to be eligible for federal aid, you need to demonstrate a financial need. And this is going to be determined when you fill out your FAFSA, and it's based on things like your household income and family size. And then you also must be a US citizen or eligible non-citizen. And then again, enrolled in at least 6 units per semester. All right, so now we'll just briefly go over some of the types of federal aid. So, and I just want to note that all of these awards require that the FAFSA be completed. So it is imperative to fill out this form. So the Pell Grant is a really common type of grant, a need-based grant. It's awarded if the FAFSA determines that you have significant financial need, and it is basically, it gives you up to $6,000 per year for the duration of or up to 6 years. And this is kind of scalable. So if you have less financial need, you might get less of the award. And if you have like substantial financial need, you'll get the full award. And then this does not need to be repaid. It is a grant. It is paid to you. It is your money. And then the next type of federal aid, we have the work study. So if you show financial need on the FAFSA, schools may grant you this option, and then you will go and find a job, which will usually be on campus. And then you work in exchange for the funds. So naturally, this does not need to be repaid. It is also your money. You earned this. And I would also just like to note that on the FAFSA, it will ask you about work study if you're interested, but this is a process that is ultimately going to be completed between you and your university once you get accepted. And then federal loans are the last type. So if you do not get enough financial aid or have enough savings to cover your education, then you or your parents might have to take out federal loans. And so there's a few different types. For students, you will get either a subsidized loan or an unsubsidized loan. Subsidized loans don't start accruing interest until after you graduate, and unsubsidized loans start accruing interest immediately. And then for parents, the option is direct plus loans. And then this, of course, does need to be repaid. Now for California state aid. So eligibility for state aid is really similar. You need to demonstrate a financial need. And again, it's based on things like your household income and your family size. And then you also must be a US citizen, eligible non-citizen, California resident, or AB 540 eligible, or a DACA student. And then similarly, you need to be enrolled in 6 to 12 units per semester, or at least 6. And then you might be wondering, what is AB 540? This is the non-resident tuition exemption. So students are charged in-state tuition and fees if they get this exemption. And to be eligible, you must meet the following criteria: attended a California high school for 3 full-time years, or complete 3 years of California high school coursework and attended a California K through 12 school for 3 years, graduated from a California high school or equivalent, register or enroll in an accredited California college, and submit a non-resident exemption request at the college. So this is going to be an additional form that you need to fill out. All right, so the entitlement grants or the Cal grants. So each of these is kind of different. So we'll start with the Cal Grant A. It covers a 4-year college university's tuition and fee costs, and it is available to high school students who have at least a 3.0 GPA. And so when you claim your Cal Grant, if you decide that you want to defer and go to a community college for 2 years first, you're going to want to create a separate account with Web Grants for Students, which is a whole nother process that you can ask your CRC about. But you're going to need to go on there and you're going to need to put your grant on hold so that when you transfer to your 4-year university, the grant will still be available to you and you don't lose that award. And then Cal Grant B. Cal Grant B is for high school students who have at least a 2.0 GPA, and then it can be used at community colleges. So the Cal Grant B is for low income families to help pay with cost of living and things like that. So it can go towards CC also. And this is money that's just paid directly to you. And then the Cal Grant C provides free money to students pursuing an occupational or technical program, and there's no GPA requirement for this. So this is for like students who are going to vocational schools, such as if you're trying to be a welder or an automotive mechanic or things like that. And then there are a few more types of state funding, so bear with me. So again, all of these require the FAFSA to be completed. Just want to really emphasize that. So the Promise Scholarship is for 2 years of enrollment fees plus other priority benefits. So students who are looking to go to a local community college can fill out the application for the Promise Scholarship, and you'll just get all of that paid for. So this is a really, really great opportunity that we really want to stress. And I also want to stress that this is not income-based, so anybody can apply for this. So totally take advantage if you can. The Chafee grant is awarded for foster youth, and this is for anything or to pay for anything that you see fit. So to be eligible for the Chafee grant, you have to have spent at least 1 day in foster care from the age of, or between the age of 16 to 18. And it will ask you about if you're foster youth or have ever been foster youth on the FAFSA, but this is actually a separate form that you are going to need to complete with CSAC, the California Student Aid Commission, in order to claim your award. And this is up to $5,000 annually, so it's pretty significant. And then the last one on this list is the Middle Class Scholarship. And this will help you cover tuition and fees at a UC or a CSU. So students eligible for the Middle Class Scholarship must be from a family that has assets equal or less than $184,000. All right, so how do you know which application to fill out? So it can be kind of confusing. So for the FAFSA, the FAFSA is for citizens and eligible non-citizens, right? And then the CADAA is for students who are undocumented, have temporary protected status, have valid or expired DACA, AB 540 eligible, or U visa holders. But I know that's kind of a lot to digest, so let's make it a little simpler. Do you have a social security number? If you have a social security number, then you're going to be filling out the FAFSA. And if you do not, you're going to be filling out the CADAA. And as usual, if there are any questions or anything is still unclear about this, your college readiness coach is always available to you to help you determine which one is right for you. All right, so now to the exciting part. Let's create an FSA ID. So to start the process, you're going to go to mystudentaid.gov and click create an account as pictured on the screen. And the FSA ID is basically your login credentials for your FAFSA account. And you're going to use the same one to get in for every year that you fill out the FAFSA. And it is imperative to remember the information. This is very important. All right, so if you click get started, it's going to take you to this screen and just ask you for some basic information about you. So first name, middle initial, last name, date of birth, and then it's going to need your social security number. So your social security number will be attached to this one account, and each account or each social security number can only have one FAFSA account. So it is imperative that you remember your login information because this is your account forever. And then the next step is going to be just some account information. So you're going to create a username that's easy for you to remember. And then you're going to input an email address to associate with the ID. And reminder, do not use your school email for the same reason. If you lose access to this email, then you might not be able, or you might have trouble getting back into your account. And then you're going to create a safe password, and it has just some simple criteria, including uppercase, lowercase, number, special character. Of course, don't use personal information, and then write it down and save it exactly how you enter it when you're making your account. And then for contact information, it's going to ask for a permanent address and a phone number. But note the phone number is not mandatory, but however, we do recommend it because it's just another line of defense in case you need to recover your account for any reason. All right, and then communication preferences. If you check these boxes, then FAFSA might send you useful information about financial aid or programs that you could be eligible for. So feel free to sign up for the communications if you want, but if you don't have, or if you don't want to, you can just uncheck these boxes. And then of course, your preferred language, you can choose FAFSA to be in, or your account to be displayed in whatever language that you are the most comfortable in. And then it's going to ask you to select some challenge questions. So try to choose questions that you will remember the answer to. And then similarly, the answer is case sensitive. So it's very, very important that you write this down and then you enter it in exactly as you assign it. Then it's going to have you confirm and verify. At this point, it's going to show you everything that you have entered so far. So you can go down the list, make sure everything is correct, and then edit anything if you need to make adjustments. And then once you move on, it's going to ask you to set up your or verify your phone and or maybe your phone if you use your number and your email address in case you need to recover your account. So what this is, it's basically going to send you a 6-digit code, and it might take a few minutes, but just be patient. Sometimes FAFSA can crash on this page, and if that happens, then you'll lose all your progress and you'll have to start over. So just wait, get the code, and it'll have you enter the code, and just like that, your account is verified. And that's really it. Creating the FSA ID is a pretty quick process. I hope that this PowerPoint was useful to you. And I guess now we can take some questions if there are any.
Tessa, thank you so much. I'm just gonna jump in because there's a great question that just came up in the Q&A. Does the student or parent create the FSA ID? And so I just want to kind of touch base on that yes, both of them create it. It becomes your electronic signature when signing the FAFSA at the end. So a couple notes on that. One is that if you are currently in 11th grade, you can actually create your FSA ID now. Just make sure that you remember that information, write it down, start a college folder, all of that. And then once the FAFSA opens next October, then you can go in and you can actually start. You have a login to begin the application. The other thing that I wanted to note on that is the parent does create an FSA ID. The parent's FSA ID will always be the parent's FSA ID. So if the parent went to college and created a FAFSA, that's your FSA ID. It's tied to your social security number. So if you have an older student that has gone to college and you needed the FSA ID, you would use the exact same one. So once you create one account, you continue to use that. And I see someone said, do both parents need to create an ID? No, it is only one parent. It will be the parent whose information that we're going to be putting in that will be signed. So that's just a couple notes on who creates it. If the student has a social security number, they will create a FAFSA. If the parent, though, does not have a social security number, but the student does, then the parent does not create an FSA ID. They will print out this page and do a handwritten signature. So lots of different kind of options that can go. I just thought that was a very good question.
There's another one. What if we don't remember our FSA ID from when we were in college like 30 years ago, which is understandable. So what would happen then?
So what you'll have to do, and this happens a lot, we'll just need to go ahead and call the contact number and they'll reset it for you based upon your social security number and your birth date and get it reset. Because yes, I doubt people will remember it. So somebody just, Roxanne, yes. So when you attended college, you created an FSA ID at time, and it is connected to your social. So it would be the same one that you're going to need to use. And like the previous, if you don't remember it, go ahead and just contact the number from studentaid.gov and it can reset it. These are great questions. Thank you guys for asking them.
I was gonna ask, Tessa, are there some common, for example, like mistakes that people commonly make, or hitches that you find that are kind of holdups, or things that like, are there some tips you would recommend for things that are, common mistakes, like, oh, I did forget my FSA ID, or, oh, my name doesn't match the name on my high school transcript? Do you have any tips for things to look out for or to remember?
Oh, absolutely. I would say my number one piece of advice would be just to start as early as possible, because everybody's situation is different, and you might get caught up on like there's a lot of room for error on this form. It's very, very long and kind of annoying. But there is one section in particular that I think a lot of people get caught up on. It's the financials section. And this would be, if you're stuck on this section, it would be a great reason to go to your CRC and have them go over everything in detail, personalized for you, and work through it together. And to have time to do that, start early.
Sorry, I was just going to jump in. I'll also say there's checklists. So we have you know what to bring, what you guys need. I do see somebody asked, which tax year do you need? So it's going to be the year prior. So right now, our current students have been filling out the 2022-2023 FAFSA, and they're using tax year 2020. So it's prior. And it will always be that. So then the next year they will be using the 2021 taxes and stuff. And so all of our information, we will help walk you guys through that. I do see another question about if the student's parents are divorced, which parent completes the form? Are both parents' income used or just one? And that is a great question. So for that, where does the child live the most? So there's 365 days of the year. So if you have 50-50 custody, technically the student is living one more day at one of the parents' houses. And so that would be who you would put. And then it would only be one parent's income if they're divorced. If step parents are involved, that goes in there, play two. We have some wonderful diagrams and everything like that we can walk through to identify exactly the situation and whose information should be placed in there. So, all the specific specialties, that's why we're here. We have amazing college readiness coaches placed at school to be able to work one-on-one with your students. Just trying to see what other questions we have. The website again, Carla, can you reshare the studentaid.gov?
Is that the correct one that I just put in the chat now?
It is, yeah. Okay. And on there you can find contact me. Someone asked when the new application will be posted. It's always posted starting in October. So for our current 11th graders, like I said, you can go on and create the FSA ID right now. However, the actual application, which the FSA ID will be your login for, opens in October. So it's October through March 2nd. But like Tessa was saying, the earlier the better.
I see a good question. So next year, like let's say somebody's a junior right now and they're applying this October, they're going to be a senior in the class of 2023. What tax year will be required for those parents? Would it be 2021?
Correct. So if you're going into college in 2023-24, then you're going to use 2021 taxes. Prior. It starts to get confusing when you're looking at that far ahead, but yes, that's correct. So if you are a current junior and you are applying when it opens in October 2022, like you said, you'll use the 2021 taxes.
There's another one. Once you fill out the FAFSA, will that tell you all the financial aid you would receive? Like, will that tell you grants, California aid, etc.?
Do you want to answer that one, Tessa, about the student aid report? That's a good question on that.
Yeah, so you'll get your student aid report and it'll outline most of it for you. And then you'll also get offers from your schools that will outline everything in detail. Like, for example, when I got into UCSD, I got my aid report or my award letter, and then it showed me my Pell Grant, it showed me institutional aid, it showed me work study offers. Like, it'll have everything kind of condensed for you there as well.
And here's a good question. Do students have to reapply for the FAFSA every year, like as college sophomores, as college juniors, as college seniors, etc.?
Yes, you will be reapplying every year, and you will be using the same FSA ID, the same login information. So this is another reason why it's so important to keep track of your FSA ID and things. Yes.
So another good question that is in here is, for an 18-year-old foster student, is a current foster parent required to act as the parent or guardian? So there are, one of the questions once you start getting into the FAFSA is identifying if the students are dependent or if they're independent. And so a foster student would be considered independent. Therefore, there is no parent or guardian information needed on the FAFSA. It will only be the student's information. And there are additional situations where that is. And again, there we have some, great kind of visuals that show you exactly who is independent and who is dependent. But foster student absolutely is going to be anybody who is not living and funded by their parent or guardian. So there's lots of different situations like that. The majority of those fall under as independent, where the students is the only information we need, which is great.
And I think there might be a few more slides as well.
Yes, there are 2 more slides, just a little CalSoap promotion slides. So let's see. This one is just a little information of our summer SWAG program. SWAG stands for Students with Academic Goals, and it'll be held weekdays from June 21st to July 1st, online daily 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. It's a great opportunity for students to receive mentoring from college students, and you can do like one-on-one or group conversations, and you can talk about, like, we'll go over college admissions, types of colleges, financial aid, test taking skills, the personal insight questions, essay writing, and a lot more. And then there might be some field trips. That stuff is still in the works, but either way, it'll be super fun and it's free. So it's really a great opportunity. And I would definitely sign up. And then last slide is just to follow CalSoap on social media if you feel inclined. We post a lot of things about upcoming deadlines, our events, we post news. So if you follow us, you'll always stay up to date on everything important going on. So that's it.
All right, I think you can go ahead and stop sharing screen, but do we have any more questions in the Q&A that we can answer?
There are no more in there right now.
I would just remind people that if you are now if you're a junior or the family of a junior or younger, and you're filling out these forms, say you start somewhere like October, November, December, or maybe even next spring, like next January or February, If you need help with the FAFSA, that's when CalSOAP is available to give you free one-on-one help. We'll have some in-person events that you can come to. We'll have some that will be like via Zoom, where you can, once you're in Zoom, instead of being a webinar like this, it's a Zoom meeting. There are breakout rooms, and we put you just individually. So it's just the family and one, it could be a college readiness coach, or it could be a financial aid counselor, a high school counselor, and we'll help you through the FAFSA or the DREAM Act. So if you're getting stuck on a certain step, if you're not sure, do I enter this income, or how do I enter something like unemployment, or what if my student is this or that, or what if I don't have a social, I mean, all those questions, we're here to help you with the different steps of the FAFSA and or the DREAM Act. So just don't forget about us, and please, and everything we do is free. This is completely free services for you. And so if you want that individualized help with your specific FAFSA or your specific DREAM Act, CalSOAP is here, we've been here, and we will be here. And that's so especially important for seniors in their senior year of high school, so that they can get that form done the first time. Once you've done it once, it's a little bit easy to kind of renew it every year, but the first time can be, you know, it's a lot of paperwork. It's like filling out taxes, right? You have a lot of questions. So I just want to encourage people to take advantage of that. Oh, and I see a good question there. Someone says, my student works. Is his tax return also used?
I can answer that. Yes, so there's going to be two portions of financials, and it's going to be the parent guardian, and it's going to be the student. And so, you know, a lot of students who don't work, they just kind of glide through that part. They're not working, making money. However, for students that do work, they would be entering in their information as well in that section.
Would they also need to include information such as bank accounts or a 529 college savings plan?
Yes, so that would all go under compensation. I believe there's a separate section for the 529 college saving plans. It does want to know assets, where it's asking who does those belong to, though. The parents normally, I believe, are, you know, the 529 plans, I believe, are still housed under the parent. And then, you know, so there's two sections. What does the student have and what do the parents have as far as assets? And that is separated.
And Tessa, I know you mentioned this during the presentation, but someone's asking, what is the middle class scholarship income limit, the maximum income? Could you repeat that?
I don't know the income limit off the top of my head, but your assets, your family's assets should be less than $184,000, I believe.
Okay, so Marty just said 2 accounts, student and parent, 2 different FAFSAs. No, we're filling out 1 FAFSA for the student. And within that 1 FAFSA, it's because the student is dependent. So we're referring to dependent students right now. We're looking at where is that student, because they're dependent, where are they getting their funding from? So they want to know, what are the parents' income? What is the parents', you know, tax information, basically? And then what is the student's income? And it's all on the 1 application. So it's not 2 separate applications. It is 1. There is 2 separate FSA IDs, and that's only just that very first part where it's connecting your social security number, that is used as a as the account login and as an electronic signature. So that's the only time that it's separate, but it's all for 1 FAFSA that is housed under the student.
And there's a question, does your home count as an asset? So what kinds of real estate count as asset and what kind do not?
So it can go into great detail on that. I mean, pretty much if you live in your house and it is your primary residence, it does not count as an asset. So that is your primary residence. If you own multiple rental properties that you are making income off of, then that can add to your additional income. But if your primary residence, no matter how much equity you have in it, does not count against you on this.
And I believe, is this correct? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe another thing that doesn't count against you is if you have money in a retirement account. So like they will look at a savings account as an asset, but if it's a retirement account, they don't look at the retirement account as an asset, and they don't look at the house you live in as an asset, only like a rental property. Is that correct?
Correct, correct. None of that is included in your assets. HSA. I'm not sure what that means.
There is a question about when a student is reapplying each year in college, filling that FAFSA out every year, and the student is no longer living at home, is the parent's income used and listed again? And I believe it is until is it 24?
I believe it's 23, isn't it?
So the independent,
Oh, that's right.
again, so that goes till 24. Let me see, I just typed it. So I'm gonna put in the chat real quick to everybody. How do I do that? There we go. Here's a link to the dependency site. And so on there, you can hover over independent and determine, because you know there's multiple ways that can make you independent. But as long as the student is still categorized as dependent, then it would go on that.
And I see two questions that I don't know the answer to. The HSA is that medical savings account. And also they're asking about a HELOC. If you have a home equity line of credit, is that considered an asset? And I don't know the answer to either of those actually.
I don't know so the like a medical savings account, are you just referring to?
I think that's what she meant by HSA. I think it's a health savings account. Like sometimes some employers offer them where you can put money into them like for a year, and it can only be spent on like medical and health related expenses. But that way I think it's exempt from taxes. So I wasn't sure how, I mean, some people put a lot into their HSA if they are expecting a lot of medical costs, medical expenses, but I don't know if that counts as an asset or not. I would think it would be exempt.
Yeah, I don't, that doesn't stand out.
Does anyone know about the HELOC?
So,
and what if you have a savings account for home improvements that was funded by a mortgage refi? That's another good one that I don't know the answer to that either.
So I'm going to put this into the chat. And here we go. And of course, I'm only going to the studentaid.gov website. Please don't get your answers anywhere else, but this is where, you know, so the assets that you do need to include: money and cash, savings and checking accounts, businesses or farms. And it goes specifically family owned and controlled businesses. So it talks about employees, how many you have, investment farms and other investments such as real estate other than the home in which your parents live, an UGMA account or an UPMA account for which your parents are the owners, stocks, bonds, certificates of deposits. So it does not talk, so you don't need assets not include. There's no retirement accounts, pension funds, annuities, IRA, life insurance, any of that. So so pretty much it's pretty straightforward as far as what it is asking is your cash, savings, checking, business accounts, and investment accounts. So if it falls under that, then you would. And it looks like there is a question in Spanish.
Sylvia, are you able to interpret that question for us into English so we can answer? She's typing an answer.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so it's how much income do you need to qualify for FAFSA? So in order to, there's not really like a specific income level, everybody needs to fill it out. And then it goes through the process of, like Tessa was showing with Cal Grant A, do you have a 3.0? What's the need? And then the amount of monies vary, as well as the federal aid from the Pell Grant, the state grant, which is the Cal Grants. And then if somebody is looking for a scholarship, things like that, any scholarship is going to say, have you completed your FAFSA? They're not going to give you money before seeing what you're getting from the federal and state government. So pretty much, you know, everybody, there's really no reason not to do it. And it's incredibly important that you do. So, okay, I'm not seeing any more questions.
All right, so I do want to reiterate that our CalSOAP website, calsoapsandiego.org, is where you'll be able to find the slide deck tomorrow, as well as a copy of this actual recording. And it looks like maybe we do have one more. Our merit financial aid, is that also subjected to financials? I'm not sure if I understand the question completely. Like, in other words, if you get a scholarship, is it counted as an asset? Is that maybe the question? Tori is typing an answer. I'm not sure on that one.
Okay, so on that, merit-based scholarships or financial aid would, I don't want to say always, but for the majority of the time, like let's say you were applying to UCSD, you would complete your FAFSA, they would say, here's the amount of tuition that's needed, here's what you're getting from the Pell Grant, here's the amount you're getting from the Cal Grant, and here we see a gap of, you know, $5,000, let's say a year that is there. Wow, you're a really great student, so we want to give you a merit-based financial award scholarship. Then they would pull in and meet that. So the merit-based financial scholarships are normally used to kind of fill the gap of what the federal aid and the state aid does not cover, because they want you at their school. And so again, that is not something that you would put on your FAFSA or anything. It would come after, and they would require that you have that because it needs to be in there. So I hope that answered that.
And I know they're saying, like, if you're applying for scholarships, will your financials need to be disclosed? It depends on the scholarship. Some scholarships will require a copy of your FAFSA student aid report so they can see an EFC, or expected family contribution, and see that number. Some scholarships will just rely on an honor system of what you self-report, and others might ask to see like your financial information. So all scholarships are different. It's going to depend on the scholarship, whether they're going to ask for you to disclose that information, and if so, how specific they get. That's going to depend on the scholarship.
And most of that financial information is going to be given to them through your student aid report from completing your FAFSA. So they're not going, you know, some might ask you additional information, but a lot of times they're going to want to see your FAFSA. They're going to want to know how much money you are getting from the government prior to offering you additional money. So merit may be hard shift if you have income above 185. No, not at all. But what they'll do is they'll look and say, okay, so this student is not getting any financial aid from the government or the state. We really want them. Then that means they have to up how much merit scholarship they're giving. So again, it's to fill the gap. They rarely, I mean, I don't think they ever would give you scholarship money that would make it so your financial aid is more than what your expenses are.
Yeah.
So, you know, cost of attendance and all of that, what they're trying to do is to bump it up so that they're helping you, you know, complete that cost of attendance, but they're not going to take it over. So what they would do is they look at the FAFSA, this student is not getting anything, then that's where they change that number. So it really just, you know, you have to fill it out. And then from that point is when all kind of like, you know, the technical, how much are we getting, and all of that kind of stuff comes into play. So, but the most important is completing it and getting it submitted. So.
I have a quick question. I was answering questions in the chat and one came up and I just wanted to clarify it. It was asking about if it sort of makes a difference whose parents claims the student on their taxes. So I know currently it does not matter who claims who on the taxes. That's not what they base it on. But I know there's going to be some changes to the FAFSA application in the near future, as in this year. So I wanted to check in to see if we knew what that was.
I believe that the change is going to be, it'll be related to, instead of based on where the student lives at least 50% of the time, it'll be based on which parent claims them on their taxes for the tax year they're reporting. However, that change probably won't happen for a year. So if you're a junior right now, a high school junior, you'll still be filling out the current FAFSA, and that change would take place the following year. So they are changing that, I believe.
Correct, but we have not been told that that is for this upcoming year. And if that change does take place, it will be like plastered everywhere where we know that is a change. So at this time, it would really be who do you live with more? So.
So someone's asking, so if you're close or in assets excess of that 187, should you not apply for the FAFSA? And I see Tori's typing an answer, but I would say no matter what your income, always fill out the FAFSA. There's really no downside to it. Even if you don't get aid from it, it's not like they're ever going to take money away from you. It can only ever help you. I don't think it can hurt you. I would still recommend filling it out, but that doesn't mean you're going to get a lot of need-based aid, but I would still fill it out for sure.
Absolutely, because again, the scholarships then. So if you're not going to get, federal aid, then you're going to be really trying for scholarships, and any scholarship is going to require you to have it filled out. So you're going to need to do it anyway. And so you need to do it on time. So yes.
Here's a good question. If you have a stepmom, but your parents file taxes separately, who do you include on the FAFSA? So which parent do you include, like your dad and your stepmom, or your mom and or mom's new partner? Like, who do you include as the parent on your?
I'm going to find my diagram and share that, because it will answer a lot of questions.
Okay.
That are very good questions. It gets confusing.
Yes, and there's also a question about like child support as well.
Okay, so let me put in the chat, I have the link to the beautiful diagram. Are your parents married to each other? You would go yes, then report the information for both parents on the FAFSA form. If no, do your parents live together? If yes, it tells you what to do. If no, do you live with one parent more than the other? And really, it's just kind of go through the little clockwork identifying, and hopefully everybody is using the chat and can see and pull that up, because again, for me, I'm very visual, but that is a great diagram, and I constantly pull it up when I'm like, who are we reporting for, because it's very thorough.
I can answer the question that was in the chat about child support. So currently, when putting in child support, it is counted in the parent income section. So when the parents are filling out their financial information, it'll ask if you've received any child support from another parent, I suppose, parent sending money over to you, and you will include that as part of your income. And you, the parent who would ask, also put in the chat that the child support stops when they graduate. Regardless, this is child support from 2021. So thinking of last year, you're going to include the child support amount from 2021, and that'll be what is included regardless of if it ends in when they graduate.
Okay, elaborate why to disclose assets if you do not qualify, even if for merit-based aid. We're not here to, if you don't want to complete it, that is, completely up to you. But what the purpose of that is for merit-based aid. So a scholarship, if I got a, if I won a scholarship from Ford, let's say, they're gonna say, here's, you know, you won a scholarship for $5,000 per year for 4 years. They're gonna ask me in order to receive that $5,000 from that private company, outside company, they're gonna ask me for my FAFSA information. And so that's why, because they're not gonna just give it to me. I mean, I would say 90% of private companies and scholarship do want to see that and require that information. So that's why we're saying it. So
I would also mention, if by chance you want to work for CalSOAP like Tessa does, one of the things that every student employee has to provide for us is their student aid report, either from the FAFSA or the DREAM Act, and we have to see your EFC. And even if it is, you know, regardless of what it is, we require that before we can even interview you for a job. So that's another reason that there are certain college campus employers that might require that as well.
an estimate of the time it takes to fill out the FAFSA, that really is just going to depend on how prepared you are. So like I said, we do have checklists. And so if you come, you know, we do Cash for Colleges, which are virtual and in person next year, where we will, you know, sit and walk you through the process and everything like that. If you have the information that you need from the checklist, it's under 30 minutes, no problem. If you don't, then we have to kind of wait until you get the information and stuff like that. So really, if you're prepared, it's under a half hour. If you have your taxes, your social security number, and all of that kind of stuff, then it's pretty quick. And by quick, I mean under 30 minutes. Okay.
I was going to ask for clarification. It says for this person's situation, a parent recently died. Does that mean a parent of the student who's a high school junior or senior?
So I think like in this situation, I'm going to say like that sounds like it's, you know, kind of a specific situation that would be a great one-on-one kind of conversation and everything like that. So with that one, I would suggest reaching out to your student's counselor. Hopefully, maybe we have a CalSOAP college readiness coach at your school, and then somebody can definitely help you with that situation and make sure that everything's completed and worked out, because it might be funded under something. But I think with that one, that's pretty specific. Okay. Tori, it looks like the financial verification process is answering that. Okay. I think we're good.
All right. And I'm also pasting in just one more time a link to the CalSOAP virtual classroom, because that's where people can also sign up to see if they have a CRC at their school, if they want to try to get the one-on-one help, or if they want to make a virtual appointment. That's the CalSOAP virtual classroom that I just put in the link. But other than that, I'm going to go ahead and say that we are going to conclude for the evening. If you do have questions, you can get in touch with us via the CalSOAP website. All of our emails are there, etc., or the CalSOAP virtual classroom. And again, tomorrow, this webinar will be listed, and also the slide deck will. And I just want to thank you, Anna and Tori, for answering the questions. Tessa, thank you for the informative presentation. And Sylvia, thank you for the interpretation. All right, I will go ahead and end our webinar for tonight. Thank you, everybody.